This is outside of a store in Australia where a couple of young girls don't have masks on. So the police up there, who I don't know what they're thinking. You know, I was a police officer myself. I've been very supportive of the blue, but I mean, this is third world stuff. The police show up to arrest them and then proceed to pepper spray a 12-year-old girl who doesn't have the mask on. This goes on, by the way, for about 2 minutes or so. It's a disturbing video. If you're watching on my Rumble account, and if you're listening, it's just as disturbing. Check this out.
Look at this. Look at this. My brother on the phone for nothing. The kid was spraying a 12-year-old. Get on it. Bring the kid was spraying a 12-year-old. Look at this. The kid was spraying a 12-year-old.
We're pepper spraying 12-year-olds now for not wearing masks. You know, I say to we have a weighty, heavy audience in Australia. I say to my friends in Australia, I'm with you. But there's not one of the people involved in this electorally should be reelected. Not one. If you're not ready to get out and organize, and I know many of you are, I get your emails all the way from across the world. If you're not ready to get out and organize and you're not ready to save your country, most of you are, I get your emails. Not one of these people should have another term in office. Not one. Whether they're your local commissioners, NSW people who are appointed, Sydney locals, nationals, whatever they are, they should never see elected office ever again. All of these videos should be played on loop in every future campaign to remind people what happened when they get vanquished because they considered themselves so and they lost all hope. Don't lose hope. We have a bunch of unserious, evil people in charge right now, folks. It's the biggest crisis of our time, the crisis in leadership. Whether it's Australia, New Zealand, which I'll talk about New Zealand in a second too, back to that area of the world. New Zealand decided it'd be a good idea to close the country down for one COVID case. Again, we've hired imbeciles, but they're evil imbeciles, which is even worse. But there's an article in Red State for 3 days now I've been trying to get to, but we've been so busy with the total disaster unfolding in Afghanistan. We have entirely unserious people, evil people in charge right now who are looking to fabricate and create out of a Play-Doh political narratives rather than dealing with the crisis in front of us. Back to COVID for a second. Red State, the great Banshee. Media's COVID narrative crumbles under the weight of the latest data. Well, what's the media's narrative? Because it's always about a narrative. The media hates Republicans. They're not interested in the truth. They're not interested in helping you get to the truth. They're not interested in exposing fascist, totalitarian, evil tactics. That's not what they're interested in. The media and sadly, large swaths of corporate America, I'll get to that in a minute too, are not interested in any of that. They are interested simply in targeting conservatism and advancing socialism and liberalism. So their narrative with the COVID and the Delta variant was what? Let's pick 2 Republican governors we hate. Let's see. Oh, Abbott and DeSantis. And let's blame the Delta variant on them. Do you have any evidence they had anything to do with this? No, none at all, but let's just do it. Now, if you're down in Florida, I'll get to the piece in a second, what they say. If you're down in Florida and you live down here like I do, you would know that a lot of infectious diseases, especially with coronavirus, given last year, tend to trend the opposite way they do up in the north. Think about that. Why is that? Think it through for a second. Sometimes a question is better than an assertion. Why would a respiratory infectious virus spread seasonally in a different season in Florida than it would up in the Northeast? Well, where do respiratory viruses fester best? Indoors, right? But air circulation is obviously going to be poorer than it would be outdoors. Right. And people, because of the constraints of the walls indoors, are forced closer together. So when are people indoors in the Northeast? Joe, pop quiz for you.
Yes.
You're up in the Northeast. Yep. Maryland has very cold winters. Yep. I know, I live there. Are you outdoors more in the summer or in the winter in the Northeast? It's not a trick.
Nah, no trick. I'm outdoors more in the summer, Daddy-O. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, Joe, very good. Joe answers correctly. Genius, of course. Joe always gets it right. And if we don't, we cut it out, recut it later. But Joe is very smart. I'm messing with you. I'm just messing
You're
with
not
poor
lying,
Joe.
no.
I'm kidding. No. Well, once, but I messed you up. That was the question was worded poorly. We did do that once. So yeah, you go indoors more in the winter. Now, if you're in Florida, where in the winter it's about 78 to 85 degrees, but in the summer it's 90, 95, sometimes close to 100 with backbreaking humidity in the summer down here. People find themselves more indoors in Florida in the summer. So Ron DeSantis said last year, where Florida had a spike in the summer, we will probably get another spike of a respiratory virus like coronavirus in the summer. And that's exactly what happened. But the media wasn't okay with that. So now that this Delta variant is spiking in liberal states, all of a sudden the media started to say, they're in a panic. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We can't blame DeSantis for Hawaii. Check this out from Banshee's Red State piece. She says, note that Hawaii is nearly 5,000 miles away from Florida, including a massive expanse of ocean in between. So any assertion that Floridians are somehow causing the current spike in the Pacific is laughable on its face. Rather, Hawaii, which has had a very restrictive mask mandate, both indoors and outdoors, is getting hit hard by Delta at exactly the time you would expect if you were looking at past trends. The proof? Hawaii's largest previous spike happened in August of 2020, the exact month they are seeing a spike this year. It's not just Hawaii, though. Many Midwestern states are now seeing the same trend play out. You see how leftist goons, evil people in the media, you see how these leftist anti-liberty, anti-truth advocates were so eager to destroy a conservative and not tell you the truth that it was seasonal, that now that it's happening in blue states, you notice the governor of Hawaii is not the target of the ire of Joe Biden. Why is that? Oh, that's right, because it's a Democrat state. And tragically, I never wish ill on anyone, not like these sick leftists. Tragically, you're going to see another spike of this Delta variant as the weather cools down in the Northeast and people go indoors. And I'm wondering what Joe Biden's going to say about Phil Murphy and Kathy Hochul, the new governor of New York, when that happens up there. Are they going to suffer the same withering criticism that Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott did? No, of course not. Because the people we're being led by, again, are unserious, evil people. But I still have hope we'll clean this up in the end. And again, I don't consider myself vanquished, and you shouldn't either. As I reference about New Zealand, where we're being led not just by incompetent, unserious people, but being led by evil imbeciles. New Zealand, Bloomberg. One virus case puts New Zealand into a nationwide lockdown. A friend of mine communicated a message to me she got from a friend in New Zealand as well, happens to be a conservative, who thinks this is a good idea. That's not the emails I'm getting, just to be clear. Emails I'm getting from New Zealand and friends they're furious about this, but that some alleged conservatives are playing along with this insanity is mind-boggling to me.